Welcome in. It is day 288, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be going over a game that, to say the least, monster of a game. This game is enormous. It's a game that anybody who plays board games, who truly loves the hobby, has heard of this game. The game is called Feast for Odin. Now, this was one that a friend of mine had, and he's had it for quite a while. At least been on his shelf for a year, maybe two, and it's just never gotten to the table. And we finally decided we were going to tackle this. Now, unfortunately, due to some unexpected situations, it ended up becoming just two of us playing the game for the night. But we still got to play it and get a feel for what the game is. And what I can tell you is that the game is enormous. We both went in totally different directions. I set myself up to be able to get access for better hunting in the game, and as a result I was able to focus in on collecting more and more of your green land tiles and your blue water tiles to really attack my map and try to get down on my negatives and attack and try to focus in on making eventually some big income, but early on getting bonus materials. My opponent focused in on getting a boat, going out and being able to harpoon for whaling, being able to use that to get himself into some better resources he could use to then turn over and start getting into the animal section, breeding, totally different strategies. And they were competitive until the end, where unfortunately, despite having done a very good job, I didn't understand the game well enough to understand how to use my resources and ended up having a boatload of wasted stuff at the end of the game. Wish that hadn't happened. I basically had like 7 pieces of unused ore, a couple pieces of unused wood. It was just a lot of stuff that if I had been thinking ahead, I might have been able to turn into better points. But the basic concept is you have 60 spots to work your place on. Now these are set up in rows of 15 where you can go into a single worker, 2 worker, 3 worker, or 4 worker spot to go there. Now if you do one that requires 3, it allows you to draw a card, which you can now potentially use on future turns depending on where you go. If you go to a spot that requires 4, it allows you to play a card. So the most likely situation is you go to a 3 spot to get a card. Well, hopefully it's a card you can play, and then you go to a 4 spot and play that card. There is an actual line of locations to go to that allows you to play a card from your hand, but it's much better if you're able to just simply go and get a regular action and along with it play the card you got. Now on top of these, your 1s and your 2s don't do anything special, just fewer workers. And every round you're going to go back and forth between, you're going to get a worker and it's going to uncover a spot telling you whether you are or are not getting food. The first one allows you to get all your 1-digited foods, which are 3. Your second and your fourth don't give you anything. Your third gives you your 1s and your 2s. Your fifth gives you your 1s, your 2s, and your 3s. So the third gives you 4 different ones, and your fifth gives you 5 different ones. Your 6th round is, again, you get none of it. You have to feed the feast. So every time that you're getting a worker, your table's expanding. It's opening by 1 extra spot. And your job is, you have to get enough food on the table. But you also have to have a variety of food. And you have to make sure that food isn't interweaving. So the food is between your oranges and your reds. Your oranges tend to be plants, your reds tend to be meats. And your job is to make sure that they're alternating. And if you have to put 2 of the same food down, only one of them can you put horizontal. After your first horizontal of a particular food, the next one has to be vertical, which makes it take up less space. So you got to be really careful on what you're collecting and how. In the chance that you don't have enough food to fill it all, you have to fill the rest with your silver, which is a point at the end of the game. And if by chance you have no silver and no food to fill into those spaces, you have to, for every empty spot, take a negative 3-point coin that's going to hit you at the end of the game. So you need to feed. On top of that, there's your map. Your map starts off with loads of negative points, and you're trying to cover these up. But if you're covering up the negatives, which tend to be at the top, the right, and in the corner, it means you're not going after your bottom left corner, which is how you are able to increase your income. Your income gradually increases in a diagonal line, and in order to get the next one up, you have to fill the box, the square that is diagonally to it. So for instance, you start with a 0, then there's a 1. Well, if you wanted to get to the 1, you would simply put a single thing over the 0. However, if you wanted to get to the 2, you would have to cover the 0, the spot above, the spot to the right, and the spot diagonal, which is the 1.1, and that's a square. So every time you're able to fill these squares, it bumps it up. And you cannot cover that number until everything in the square to its left is covered. So you have to start making sure that you're getting closer and closer and able to cover these so that you can get to the next one up. There's also resources mixed into these, and this gets tough because in order to get a resource, you have to cover it all the way around. So you may not be able to get to a certain resource because it's being blocked because it's right diagonally next to one of the numbers. And you can't do that till you've covered the number, which in order to do so may require you to cover another resource you are already gaining. So you have to go back and forth. There's plenty to this game, but why don't we jump in, let's talk our 7 categories and see where this game lands for us. The art. So the front of the box to me is iconic. You know, it's your Viking horn. It's a nice front of the box. I feel that it stands out in a store. It draws the eye, which is the point of a box. It's a big box, which helps. The big boxes do tend to draw eyes a little bit faster, but I think the art does a good job here. The inside the box art does the same, but it kind of scares you. I don't think the art is bad. I just don't think it's great. But when it's all set up, even me, a pro gamer, I look at it and it's overwhelming. I walked in last night and I was like, man, this takes up the whole table. There were so many pieces. Were you going for the main board, for your actions board, for your personal board? Were you going for the ships? Were you going to try to get bonus boards? Were you trying to get the bonus scoring boards? Were you going for your animals? Were you going for your foods or for your lands or for your waters? There was so much stuff. It, to me, is cluttered in a way. I understand that the game works. It's fun. And some people really specialize in this. I think that the art does work. It's just, it can be a little overwhelming. But the art itself is good. Thumbs up. Your components. So the components are primarily cardboard. You do have some cards mixed in there. The cards are really good. And your resources are all wooden. Overall, I think they do a good quality. Thumbs up. Your price. You're not going to get this game any cheaper than $80. And it's a big game. And to me, as I said before, I feel like it's a game you have to specialize in. I would never get this for my collection. I'm never going to ask to play this again. Because I feel like in order to get great at this game, I need to play this game a lot. And I like too many games, and I play too many games, and I own too many games to focus in on a game of that size and magnitude too much. So for me, I'm not willing to pay $80. And I think most of you won't either. I think that it's a good game, and you could greatly enjoy it, but you really need to play that game minimum 10 times a year, I feel, to have it truly land for you. And I think if you're going to play that game 10 times a year, you're going to have a very small collection. And I think most people that watch my channel don't come into here with small collections. They're looking at either starting a collection, so this is not a good one to start a collection with, it's too big, too much, or they're looking to try to be careful about how big their collection gets because they are like me and they're getting huge amounts of games and they're trying to make sure they get the right game. This is a great game, but if you have a big collection, if you have more than 30 games, I feel like this one's going to be one that's going to die on the vine. So for me, price is too much. Thumbs down. Your difficulty. Straight out the bat. Not for kids, not for beginners. Absolutely not. The experts, yes. Expert players for this game, huge. But the experienced players, I feel like it's split. Either half of you are in, half of you aren't. And if you're giving me the experts and half the experience, that's not enough players. I think it's a little bit too difficult. I see that I could get this game down eventually. I don't feel like it's impossible, but I see too much commitment to get there. For me, thumbs down. Replayability. If you're going to focus in and make this your game, sure, plenty of it. But if you're not, even if you are, if you don't have a group of people who are committed to it with you, it's just not going to get to the table enough. I feel like this is one of those games for me, I'm one and done. I will be okay never playing this one again. It's not that it's a bad game, and it's not that I can't learn it. It's just that the amount of time and effort it's going to take to get this game truly to be enjoyable every time, I'd rather just go play the games I love already. So for me, I just don't see the replayability. Thumbs down. Keys to victory. This is where this game is magnificent. It's giant, and it's giant for a reason. How do you want to win? Are you going after points by trying to focus in on the money and you're trying to get as much as you can? Are you focusing in because you're trying to get the bonus boards or your resources and you're trying to get, all of the 8s and the 20-point bonus boards? Are you focusing in because you're trying to fill your map's negatives and you're trying to get down on as little as you can so that you can get a bunch off that? Are you in on your animals and you're trying to score all the 3-pointers for every animal you have? Are you trying to go all out with getting one of the bonus lands and seeing if those can help you? Are you about trying to go after all of your specialized, the King's Crown and stuff like that, things that can get you bonus points there? There's so many ways to get points in this game. There are lots of strategies. A 2-player game, I think, wasn't the right way to test this. To me, this needs to be played 3 or, fingers crossed, 4-player, where it's a real battle to figure out what you can focus in on, because I only once or twice had what I wanted to do stopped because of what my opponent did, and I think that this game would be way more interesting with more people, because you don't change anything. You play the exact same game. There's just all of a sudden an extra person with an extra, start of the game, 7 meeples. So all of a sudden, if you're in a 4-player game, you go from being your 7 versus 7, being your 7 versus 21 other meeples. That's a lot of worker placement happening. So to me, great opportunity when it comes to those keys to victory. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I don't think that any piece of it's necessarily unique outside of probably the board and how they do the setup of the negative points, earning your income, and getting your bonus resources. That's actually a pretty unique piece to this game. But what is unique to me is the fact that without it being a complete overwhelmingness of lost and not understanding what's going on, they throw an enormous amount at you and it makes sense. It is a solid game. Yes, because there's so much, there's a lot to try to follow, and it can be tough to completely understand all of your options. But once you've gotten through that, a lot of games that put to this level of stuff out there, they just don't work. This game does work. It just requires you to be truly somebody who is a student of the game. And I think that a lot of those other games don't land like this. So to me, that, despite the player board being so unique, it's actually the way that it's so much and yet it works so cohesively that works and makes it unique. This is a unique game. Thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? If you ever have a chance to play, just play. Even if you don't really think you ever want to play this game, you don't think you'd hate it, you just have no interest, give it a try, because I'm happy I tried it. I wanted to try it. It's a game that's just something you always hear in the name. You hear it at conventions, you hear it on Board Game Geek, Board Game Arena, people talking about it. It's a big game. So I think it's one you should try to play. But I do not recommend you to go out and buy this game. It's too much money, it's too much game, and it's not getting played very often. So in my opinion, if you know somebody who has it, go play with them. And if it hits for you, and you can find at least 2 other players who genuinely love the game, and you're like, you know what? This is going to be a once a season. Every 3 months, we're going to play this game. Sure. Then you can go and you can own the game. But otherwise, I would say play it once, see if you like it, and once in a while, see if you can find a way to get the game in that way. Go to Board Game Arena. It's available there. You can play it online. I don't know if that's going to be as good as in person. I haven't tried the online version, but I wouldn't commit to buying it. I just think it's too much of a game, too much of a price, and too hefty of expectations of not only learning the game, not only setting up the game, not only packing up the game, but mastering the game and doing it with other players who can keep up to that level with you. But that's just my opinion. Maybe this is one that you want to take a shot on. I've done that with plenty of games where I spent more money than I probably should. Everybody does it once in a while. So what makes us gamers? Well, it has been day 288, and we've been speaking about the game Feast for Odin. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.